Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Emma's Pearls. I'm on the road doing the best I can to be present and would like to welcome my sister, Karoline Huls, who is joining us today. She is the youngest of my 5 older sisters, and I'm just so thrilled to have you here with us, Karoline. There's so much to talk about, as always, because you and I went through so much as we grew up, and sometimes we didn't always agree with each other. In fact, most people said that we would fight like cats and dogs, and I'm just thankful that I matured enough and grew up and finally gained some appreciation for you as my sister.
Oh, thank you.
So, would like to turn the time over to you to share whatever you would like to share with us today, and to Angeline to ask the questions as we go on with this episode.
Great. So, Karoline, would you start out by introducing yourself, your family, and kind of your childhood and being a descendant, kind of how that mixed in with your childhood?
Sure. Sorry, all of a sudden I got a frog in my throat. I'm Karoline Huls, and as David was saying, I'm one of his older sisters. I am the seventh of 8. My mom knew she was to have a boy. She'd had a dream, and she sometimes says she imagines us girls up there going, back of the line, David, back of the line, because she knew that this boy, that she had this son coming. And I'm the 5th of 5 girls in a row. We have 2 older brothers, and they were kind of pretty much out of the house by the time I really remember anything other than they were gone. Older teenagers. There's and if she had had David before any of us, she would have stopped. She was done. But she knew there was a boy, and when she was pregnant with me, she just knew I was that boy. And so she didn't even think of a girl's name. I was a boy. She knew it. And that was it, because she'd already had 6 kids. And so when I was born, the doctor said it's a girl. And my mom's like, no, can't be. Must be a boy. And he's like, well, I can put her back in and see if she comes out a boy. But I was a girl. And then 2.5 years later, David came. And what I can say about our childhood is that the one word that comes for me, and I think David, in our younger years, was stability. Our dad worked. My mom took care of the house. She had 8 kids. And feeding, clothing. At that time, my mom would sew all our clothes. We had a farm, and we were out picking rocks in the spring, put weeds all summer long. I remember family home evenings would be out shucking the corn, and we'd have a line, and it'd be shuck the corn, cut the corn on the cob, and into the freezer. That would be our lives, and it was stable. I don't ever remember seeing my parents fight, ever. Sorry, the emotions are starting to hit, but I'll get through it. When I was 12, things happened, and my mom and dad got divorced. And that is where our stepdad, Ivor, came into our lives. And David and I became snowbirds. We would spend the summers in St. George, and, oh no, sorry, backwards. We'd spend the winters in St. George and the summers in Montana with my dad and our stepmother, Carol. And like it was a shock to us, all of us, because like I said, I don't ever remember seeing my parents fight. Ever. And so for that to happen, it was a blow. And we kind of had the best of both worlds and the worst of both worlds. It goes back and forth that way. Anything else you would like to share, Dave?
Tragedies happen in all of our lives, and I think what's important, and we're told in the scriptures to acknowledge God in all things. And as hard as going through that divorce was, I was just shy of my 10th birthday when that happened. Many blessings in disguise came out from that. And I do believe that Heavenly Father, through the atonement of Jesus Christ, will heal everything that has been broken. And I think our family is an example of just that, because there was no animosity, there was no infighting between the parents. They unified. They said, okay, let's move on and let's make this as peaceful as possible. And I really feel that my mom and our stepdad Ivor were meant to be together for the mission that they did for the Smith family, and that our dad and our stepmom Carol were meant to be together because they were perfect for each other, and we kind of had the best of both worlds. You could not have two sets of parents be more different than what we had, and they each provided what the other one did not. And to the point, it ended up being, in my view, a blessing in disguise. And I love both sets of parents, and I love my step parents. I love Ivor. He is my dad, and I love Carol. She is my mom, just as much as our mom and dad are. So that's all I have to share on that.
Do you want to share what you observed with mom and dad before we moved?
Yes. When my dad asked my mom for a divorce, she actually was in Arizona visiting one of our older brothers, Paul. And she had to drive from Arizona all the way back up to Montana. And when they got there, she had 3 days to pretty much pack everything up into a blue van and into a trailer. And as I said earlier, I was 9 years old, and I was in the TV room, and I heard sobbing coming through the window, sound of sobbing coming through the window from the driveway. And I remember climbing up onto the back of the couch, looking out the window, and our dad, who we had never seen cry in our lives. Crying was not allowed. He just did not tolerate it. And our dad was collapsed on the side of the trailer, sobbing so hard his body was shaking. And our mother was standing next to him with her arm around his shoulders, comforting him. Apparently, he had just received word that he was going to be excommunicated from the church. And it just crushed him. But that vision has stuck in my mind for the last 43 years. And in my mind, I see the Savior standing off to the side with his hand outstretched towards our mother, his left hand pointing at a new path. The Savior has tears streaming down his cheeks because he knows the heartache that our families are going through. But down that path is our stepdad Ivor waiting for our mom to start the new journey. And behind them, I imagine that the Smith family was standing there waiting for them as well. And on the right, there is a healer standing there to wait for our dad to begin the healing path with him. And years later, they were rebaptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they got permission. And our mom went to bat for them with the leadership of the church to get them permission to get sealed in the temple together. And as I said, our family is an example of what the atonement is all about. It's to heal that which has been broken and count your blessings and acknowledge the hand of God in all things.
It would have been about not quite 10 years later when I met my husband, and my husband Steve, we went to the St. George Temple to be sealed together, and in that temple we had both sets of parents. They were both all there, and it meant a lot to have them there, because that shows how the atonement can work. And that was 33 years ago. My husband and I got married 34 years ago, and then a year later went to the temple with our oldest son, and and he was sealed to my husband Steve. And our life has been ups and downs, turns inside and out. In 34 years, we've had 5 kids, 4 of them premature babies, 2 kids that are cancer survivors. You had Emma and Kalisha on different podcasts. And it was interesting to listen to them. It brought to mind to me the stories we hear of Joseph and Emma's young kids at the time of Joseph and Hiram being killed. That they were, the stories we've heard is that they have passed down to their families that at the time that their father died, they were put into a cabin, and they were jailed, kind of felt like they were imprisoned in this cabin with guards on the sides, and they would only allow people to come in to feed them once a day. And hearing Emma's and Kalisha's talking about a very rough time of period through our life, it really, it's their truth as young kids, not knowing adult situations going on. Kalisha, I found it interesting. She talked about the situation up in Sheep Creek, and it was an interesting, rough time, a, a period in our life. They were not removed. She thought that they were removed later. When I had had pneumonia, we had some church members keeping them for me because I was sick. I was really sick for several days. And then we had that case on us, and in 3 months, they had a person coming in to teach me how to teach my kids, and in 3 months, the case got closed, with the state requesting that it remain open so they can keep an eye on us. And the judge says, well, she can still come and visit, but they've done what they needed to do. We'd gone to parenting classes, and about 2 months after that, this lady comes to me with a card, and she said, I want you to know that I've been doing this for many years, and you are the only one that I have ever seen get the state out of their lives in 3 months. They want me to keep coming.
Wow. That's amazing.
They want me to keep coming so that they can keep an eye on you, but you don't need me. She's like, I come up and I sit here and I visit with you and you're good. Yes, you had a bad time, but she's like, here, and she gave me a card, and I'm thankful to her for, it was a really rough time. But the they had stopped by. The kids had just cleaned their room, and this little short girl, she's like 21, and Emma had got mad and emptied the bag of garbage that she was supposed to take outside and put in the garbage can that morning before school. She just took it and threw it all over, and Steve told her, you will be cleaning this up after school. That's your consequences. And they did a surprise visit on us that day, and I was working at the store, and the little girl got into, like, she's shorter than me, and Steve's 6'5", and she's like this, you're supposed to, and he looked at her and just said, these are consequences. My daughter did this morning. She will be cleaning up after school, because they had this room cleaned. It's a mess now, but that was because of her choices. And at the time that we did go for the court for the ending, she was the only one on the state side. Everybody else had come and sat down with us. I don't know if you want to hear it.
I'm just, yeah, anything you want to tell us about your kids, or about just the knowledge of Joseph in your life, or wasn't in your life, how you handled the family dynamic with that. I think you knew that you were a descendant, and so you
Yeah.
can go into that. But you're even just your life with that relationship.
Yeah, we've always known that we've been the descendants. It was always just part of our life. We never felt like advertising it, but like at the time that after Mom and Ira got married, it was a regular thing for us to go to firesides. And, one of the things that would be real awkward is people would, of course, David and I would be introduced as their children and as third great descendants. And a couple times I'd have somebody go, can I touch you? And they'd be like petting my hair and touching me, and I was like, okay, you know. And one time I talked to my mom about it, and she said that the reason they do that is it tells it because I exist means that Joseph and Emma were real, and that's why they're enthusiastic of meeting us, because it makes it real instead of somebody on a pedestal.
Oh, did that happen a lot?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, David, yeah. So, trying to think where I am. Um, my kids have been raised more. I never really was very open. Like even today, I'm not hesitant, but I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm the third great descendant of the third great granddaughter of Joseph and Emma, unless I feel impressed too. I don't, but my husband taught my kids to be proud of that and not to be shy to talk about it. Um, I want to say that I'm very proud of all my kids. They have a lot of strengths and have just are awesome people. I'm trying to see where I'm at here. But Emma, when I was pregnant with Emma, it was a really hard pregnancy, and I ended up in the hospital the last 2 weeks before she was born, and they were giving me medicine that just made me shake. And they were coming in and giving me the shot every hour to try and slow down my contractions, and it just was really a rough time. And the night before she was born, we knew they were going to do a C-section the next morning, and I was just having a really, really hard night. The contractions weren't slowing. I was so tired because they're like, come and give you a shot and say, just relax. And then as it starts to ease off, they come and give me another shot. And I'm just, and they're like, relax. And you can't write, you can't, the medicine's called breathing, and it's basically legalized speed. And I was just having such a rough night. And I felt a hand brush my hair back like this, and I went to sleep just like that. And the next morning, they woke me up and did the C-section, and she came out a girl. We thought she was a boy, and I'm like, I don't know what to name her, because we were going to name a boy Joseph David and call him JD. And she's a girl. And my mom was holding her after they got us moved into a room. And I'm like, Mom, I don't know what to name her. Help me. And she's holding her, and she's like, I can't name your baby. And I said, what about Emma Joy? And my mom started crying, because while she was holding this baby, she told her, my name is Emma Joy. And without me knowing, I said that. And so that's how Emma got her name. And because I feel strongly that night before that it was Emma Smith that had brushed, like it just, I felt the hand go like this and brush back, and I was asleep.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And the Emma has been through a lot and has come through a lot of things that has been hard. And she wrote a poem. She writes poems, and it's on. I asked her for it the other day because I want to share one that she wrote several years ago, and it like speaks to me. It might speak to others and touch them. Shadows seem to chase me from behind as I have been running along, never seeing them hiding, never seeing them linger, not giving them power to darken my sight. Today I looked back for a glimpse, allowing that shadow to smile in glee, a smile that filled my heart with lead, my thoughts with memories, turning my sight black. For that second I fell landing in a puddle of thoughts, tears, and the past, allowing the shadow to grab a hold, allowing the what-ifs to spiral around. Tears started to flow down my face, unseen and unfelt, falling into the puddle. As the shadows of the past circled around, each taking glee and pleasure in my pain, I could feel the nothing emotions being to build. I could feel the nothing emotions beginning to build. With the nothing emotions, I remembered each time, each moment that I had ever struggled, those few times I lost all I was. Then I realized I am not lost. Gaining courage, I looked up into the unseen faces around me, each pointing, laughing, scorning me, each a part of me, each a piece of my past, however, none who I am today. Getting to my knees, then to my feet, I watched as one by one the shadows lost their forms, each transforming into something new. Looking around, I found my hope. The shadows hid the truth from my eyes. I am not a victim. I am not my past. I am stronger than my memories. I choose to not focus on the darkness. I am a survivor. What about you?
That's very beautiful. She did an amazing job.
She did. She's got a lot of really touching poems that just really hit. And and I know when those times where when I read them, and she has them by date, that I know those are at times that just was really a rough. She was at her bottom at times, and she has an amazing talent of writing poems that really touch others, and I'm so proud of her with what she's doing with her clients. She'll say she can't tell me details, but she'll call me on a day. She's like, I've had a breakthrough. A client that I've been working with is communicating with me, and he never has, just bright spots that it's exciting to hear her say those bright spots. And then with Kalisha, she went through a brain tumor when she was 13. She had brain surgery at 14. One of the time, my mom and Ivor were back east teaching in Nauvoo at the time that we found Kalisha's brain tumor. And I was in such a fog. I didn't I didn't think of brain tumor cancer, and um, we went to the neurologist, and he says it's too big, I can't touch it, and so you need to go see oncology, and sooner than later. And I think I was at your brother's house because they had let us stay at their house for that week while we were needing to at your brother Uriah's house. And I was there, and I got a hold of Mom, and I told her the oncologist or the neurologist won't touch it. He wants us to go see oncology. And my mom goes, Kalisha has cancer? And it hit me. And I just started crying. And Kalisha came into the room, gave me a big hug, and she's like, Mom, smile. All we can do is make other people feel better. And that's how she went through her whole treatment. And that's how she is today. She wants others to feel better. To, to, she smiles at them. She's an example to me. I'll be at a store with her, and I'll think, oh, that's a pretty dress. But I don't, it's a stranger. I don't talk to. And she'll say, oh, that's a gorgeous dress on you, or I love your haircut, or I love those shoes. And as we walk away, I see these people brighten, like she just made their day. And I now try to do that in my meeting people, and because my daughter is an example to me in that, like, I want to be able to make other people feel better like she can. This is getting more into my testimony. One of my strongest testimonies, and it's kind of hard because I've been struggling the last year. I had an experience where there should have been no way that I ended up on this trip, but I ended up on this trip with my mom, Ivor, and another couple, and we went down to Arizona, and I can't remember if it was Jason's or Alan's. They had turned 12 and was being ordained, and so we went down there and spent a couple days with Alan and Jason and Pam and Brianna and their family. And that day, that after church, Ivor and this other man gave them blessings. And I don't remember everything of Pam's or Brianna's blessing, but the points from Jason's and Alan's was Alan was told that he was carried on the shoulders of Joseph. Jason was told that he was taught at the knee of Joseph. And I walked away from that experience with a deep, deep feeling that, to be carried on somebody's shoulders, that's a personal thing. Joseph played with us. Joseph taught us. And I don't think it was just us that are his descendants. He's the father of this dispensation. I think it was for everybody. He knows us on personal levels. He's aware of us, aware of our troubles, aware of our challenges, our successes. He's he's there. I don't know if you want any more on that, but
I will take whatever you want to say or give or offer. I
well,
think that's very
if you have
beautiful.
something to add, go ahead and add.
I'm just enjoying listening to your story and your experiences.
um, I'm probably the only one that really remembers that now with Ivor's situation. My mom's so stressed with the changes happening. And the thing that's made it hard is one of the men that was part of that blessing has gone a path that is just, it's made me wonder, because that's one of my strongest part of my testimonies is built off of that. And now I'm finding out that this man wasn't who we thought he was. And it's like I've asked my mom, where's that leave my testimony? Because it's there, but I don't know what I'm trying to say. Because I'm trying to be diplomatic and not be negative.
Yeah. 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 And I think we're understanding that. And that can be super confusing to have such an amazing experience and somebody part of that turn a different path.
And not and find out that the person we thought he was, even then, he wasn't. I don't,
Yeah.
And
And
so,
where do you stand with Joseph and Emma? Where's your understanding and knowledge with them, your feelings with them?
I don't doubt that Joseph is the prophet. I just know it. I, and is it because I was raised that way? I don't know. But I just know. And Emma was there and helped him, and she went through a lot of trials. But she never, um, the only thing she didn't do is come west, but she never denied anything. Even till when she died, she still proclaimed the truth.
I think that's very poignant right there is she went through a lot. You've gone through a lot. We've all been through a lot, David and I, and a lot of family and a lot of people in our audience have been through a lot. And Emma, throughout all that, she never denied it. She just didn't come out west. And so this guy that you had this different opinion of when you found out, did that shake your testimony? I mean, it sounds like it shook it a little bit, but it sounds like you're still pretty steady as to where you stand with the gospel.
Well, you gave me the perfect opening to move into the second part of because like I said, last year I was struggling because that experience and then a few other people that have been strong members I have found are not right now. They're making different choices, which I would have never have thought that this man he performed Emma and Jeremy's baptism, or not baptism, wedding. He married them. He's a very close member of a family, and I found out that him and his wife are no longer in the church. And that's kind of shook me because I would have never have seen that happen with him. But at the time that was happening, I was focusing on work. and doing what I can to help support here. And I'm, I would go home, go down to St. George, and I'd hear David talking about these experiences he's having in these talks and the spirits right there. And like Emma went down with me one time, and she's like, I wish I could remember the exact words that she said, but she said, there's something important in Mom's library, and there's spirits there, and David is the guardian. And she's like, Mom, there are powerful spirits around David to protect him. And I come back and I'm like, I'm working. I work Sundays. I'm a lower manager, so I'm the one that has to do the weekends. Unless somebody randomly goes, oh, I want that to have Sunday off. I want to work Sunday. Said nobody ever. And last fall, I like to listen to um, true crime podcasts, and I was listening to about missing people, and all of a sudden, I started having this impression: call David or text him, tell David you are thankful you're not a sister missing her brother for so many years, and that it's because of the Lord. And that last part is very important. That it's because of the Lord. And that impression come to me like I'd be at work or doing something, and I'd pick up my phone and then like blank. So I'm like, okay. And it happened for like 2 weeks. And I walked into the room one day and I said, Steve, I have a message for David. Anytime I try to send it to him, I just blank. He goes, well, you can tell him today. He's coming up. I said, what? And so when David called Steve as he was leaving St. George, I told him, I am very thankful that I am not missing you for over 30 years. And I know it's because of the Lord. And David had an accident. He'd gone to the temple to get his endowments, but he was waiting to go to the MTC before his mission. So he went up to Montana to have his farewell up there. And all I knew about the story was he had a car accident, that he went off a cliff. They got the car, a guy came along, helped him get the car on the road, and then my dad and my stepmom ripped into him because he wrecked our stepsister's car. And he went on to his mission with with bad feelings from the family in Montana. That's all I remembered of it. And him and Steve helped give a man a blessing. And this man looked at David and he said, what's your story? And David looks at me. He goes, should I say it? I said, oh, maybe that's why I've been impressed. Maybe. And if you would, David, I'd like you to share your part of what really happened.
So it was about a month before I entered the MTC, and as Karoline said, I went to Montana to have a farewell up there. I wanted to go fishing one last time in Montana before I went on my mission, and so I borrowed my parents' what was it, 1980 Mazda hatchback that had a metal car top carrier that our dad had fabricated and made. So it was not a flimsy car top carrier that you buy from the store. It was made to last hundreds of years, would be even longer, because it was out of steel. So I go searching for a fishing spot, and in the remote area of northwest Montana along the Canadian border, I'm just taking right turns, left turns, wherever I see, trying to get down into the valley to where I could find a river and to go fishing in. And I hit some loose gravel, lost control, and I went off a 40-foot cliff. When I opened my eyes, I was staring through a cracked windshield into blue sky. The car was at a 90-degree angle, position just like the space shuttle getting ready for takeoff. And I undid my seatbelt, almost rolled into the back seat, was able to get out of the car. That metal car top carrier was folded in half over the driver's side door and roof. Next to it was 3 pine trees that were all snapped in half, and they had about a diameter of about maybe 6 to 10 inches, and they were snapped in half. And so I'm just saying that, I discuss this a lot lately. We acknowledge God's hand in all things. Our Father's skills in fabricating that car top carrier saved my life. It provided a crash cage over me as that car flipped and rolled off that cliff. Now, I was maybe over 10 miles from where my family was camping. No one knew where I was. I didn't even know where I was, really. But I felt peace, and I knelt down and I said a prayer of thanks that I was still alive. Then I climbed up the cliff, got onto the road, looked down, and again I knelt down and I said a prayer of thanks that I was still alive. I felt peace. I was not alone. I knew it. I just know that they're, I guess, guardian angels were all around me, because I was not alone. But I was concerned because I knew my dad would not be happy about the situation of the car, and so I knelt down and I prayed and I expressed my feelings, and then I said, Father, you have said if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. I'm needing a mountain moved right now, and I'm asking you that if it be your will to pick this car up and put it on the road. And then I ended my prayer. Okay, nothing happened. The car did not suddenly levitate and come onto the road. And I said, well, okay, I guess that was not your will. And I started hiking down the road. 5 minutes after that prayer, a logging truck came down that road. The gentleman pulled over. He explained to him what happened. We went and looked at the car. He looked down, looked at me, and said, "Are you sure you don't need an ambulance?" And I said, "No, but can you help me put the car on the road?" And he said, Nope, I'm afraid you'll sue me for damages." And that's when I felt guided. I literally felt I should say, "Sir, if you pick that car up and put it on the road, you can go your way, I will go my way, and you'll never hear from me again in your life." And as I said that, I felt the peace, and the peace that I felt transfer from me to him, and his face changed, and his eyes softened, and he said, "Okay, I will do it." And he went around in the back, and that is when I realized that he had a logging crane on the back of his truck. And he literally picked that car straight up and set it on the road, and then got in his truck and went his way. And the car drove me to camp. Clank, 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 clank. I mean, it was making a lot of noise, and it never operated after that. But as I drove up off that gravel road and turned onto a paved road, I heard our Heavenly Father's voice. Answered your prayer. Heavenly Father knows what we need before we need it. Angels are working to set in motion events to answer prayers of faith. When it is His will that answers will be there. But not only that, He prepared that truck driver years in advance to have that training, hours in advance to be in that remote section on a logging road in the middle of nowhere with a crane to answer my prayer within minutes of me putting out that request. Not only that, our Father built a car top carrier that turned into a rolling cage that protected from having the top of the car crushed in on me, because I would have been killed if it had not been for that car top carrier. And I just want to testify again. Heavenly Father is in charge. He doesn't always answer our prayers the way we expect them. A year ago, my mom said, "So when you offered that prayer, what did you expect?" And my answer was, well, I expected Him to pick it up and put it on the road. I didn't care how He did it, but I expected it to happen. And when we put out prayers of faith like that, we also need to have patience and understanding that He will answer our prayers according to His will and in His time. And I just testify of that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
That has broadened my testimony. I sat there hearing that, because even today, where he crashed, we probably still would not have found him. Nobody knew where he was. And it's still today, if you look at Tally Lake area on Google Maps, there's nothing. It's all forest, all cliffs, dirt roads, even 30-some years later. And I know I would have been like, we don't know where my brother is, you know. But I came away from that with a testimony building. I drive David nuts sometimes because I end up repeating myself, but it's because I am processing it as I share it with people. It's like I keep trying to figure out what it is I'm trying to say, and it irritates David, and I'm sorry, but that's my way of processing what's happening. And I talk to my mom, and I'm like, I am realizing that the Lord's aware of our needs, and He's there. And even we did this podcast a long time ago back, and we're having to redo it. And you guys, I was in Montana with my mom, and I was thinking, well, maybe when I get back with Mom, we might do it while I'm still in St. George. And you said, how about the 21st? And I'm thinking, that's so far away. Okay, I'm on the trip. Just let it go. All right, we'll do it October 21st. To where this last weekend, I had to call Mom and talk to her the other day. Did she share with you, David? That I've had even more learning and understanding of my testimony, of the fact of what David just said. I have now borne my testimony of, I've shared David's story and bore my testimony to two different people that I know I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to fix, but I know the Lord is aware of their situation and is at this moment working to help them through whatever is happening in their lives. To where this last Sunday, I attended, I'm helping a friend going through some very difficult times in her life, and she needs friendship, she needs fellowshipping. She's in a very dark period of her life, and I'm one friend right now that she trusts, and I keep praying that there are others that can help her, that will look at her and understand she needs love, she needs understanding, she needs fellowship, she just needs others to say, we love you and we're here for you. I met this friend working at DI 4 or 5 years ago, and she was going to ask me, can I go to your ward? And I'm like, sure, but it'd be better if we found out what ward you're in Richfield, so that we can go to your ward and not, because it's going backwards coming to Monroe. We need to go to your ward where you're at. And I'm praying, I keep praying, please have this, because our wards here in Monroe, they're good, but there are some people that are just very judgmental, and a lot of them know her family situation and judge her unfairly. And so I'm thinking, let's go to your Richfield ward, and I'm praying, please help me have people that can help support her, help me help her. And we're sitting there in sacrament meeting, and who walks in with his family? A man that was our manager at DI. Like, of course it's him. Of course it's him. Not only is he aware of her situation 4 or 5 years ago, he's aware of her and loves her as a fellow human being. All of us had respect for this man. He cared. He was so amazing as a job coach at DI. And we went over, and he's somebody that she would feel comfortable talking to, because she knows her, understands her. And we went, and he's like, hey, how are you doing? And he just was so enthusiastic to see her, see me. He's like, I just live around the corner from where you're staying. You need anything? Here's my address. Let's exchange numbers. Of course it was him. The Lord knew who she needed to be. So now, and we left, and she says, I can go to this ward. I feel comfortable going to this ward. And several months ago, I sat there and I told her David's story, and I said, I don't know how it's going to work out for you. I don't know what the Lord's got planned, but you've got to know He has something planned, and He is doing something, and it will happen. And I've been able to watch these things, like I see it. I don't know, I'm not wanting to go into a lot of her story because it's private, but she was homeless. I took her to St. George for a safe place to be. I ran into a friend that works at a place here in Richfield, and she's like, if she lived in Richfield, she'd have a room. I got a hold of her, and now and it's been hell for her up here, but they've got her help, and she's in a program now where she's going to have an apartment, and she can see her boys. I see it falling into place for her. She can't, but I talked to her. I said, I bore that testimony to you, Beth. Sorry, I shouldn't say her name. I bore my testimony to you of that the Lord is aware of us and has plans for us. And I see it happening for you, and I'm so excited to see what the future comes for you. She's like, it's been hard. I said, I know it's hard, but I can see it for you. And I'm excited for you because I know it's happening. Just hold on and keep moving forward. Keep doing what you need to do to keep going and keep your goal in front of you.
I love that. I think it's really hard for people to see it when they're in the muck and the dirt. And so when you or somebody else outside of where they're at can show, this is what I see, I think that's super helpful. And I think that's great that she has you to be able to point out what you see when it's very hard for other people to see when they're in that.
I remember being there and my mom saying, you're doing good. You're doing good, Caroline. Just keep positive. Keep going. And my mom saying that to me and me not believing it. And while I was talking to my friend, I heard my mom doing it to me. Were you going to say something, David?
Yeah, she has done that to me quite a few times. I remember being on the phone with our mom, and I was heartbroken. And I said, she says, well, you know what I'm going to tell you. And I said, yes, you're going to tell me there's a silver lining, but I don't see it. And right now I just want to just curl up in this pain that I'm feeling. There is no silver lining at this moment. But yes, Mom, I know there's a silver lining down the road.
Yeah.
Caroline, I just want you to know how proud I am of you. I wrote a note earlier, and I just want you to know that you are a survivor. Be proud of who you are because of what you have been through. And you are not there where you were. You are where you are now, and you're better because of all that you have gone through. And I think each of us here can share that sentiment, and as many of the viewers here as well. I would love for us to have you on again. I think it would be great for us to talk on another episode to discuss about your son Joshua with
He's right
his.
here.
Yep.
He's sending you guys hugs.
Oh, sending him hugs too. But
Yeah.
I think that would be a great other episode for us to cover because there's so much more, and many
Yeah, I left
are
out
hurting.
a lot. Yeah.
Many are hurting. Many are suffering, and they think they're alone. And it helps when someone who has survived as much as you have survived can stand up and say, hey, I made it. I'm still dealing with a lot of the repercussions or the after effects, but and so I think we should schedule another episode with you.
Okay. I want you to know that in the first podcast we did, I ended up crying through a lot of it, going through a lot of those feelings. I want people to know I don't live in that period. It's the past. I try to move forward. When I talk about it, I cry. But I want people to know I try really hard to move forward in positivity and not dwell on the crap. And that was where I kind of was ending too. I did want to share as an end story that a gift from my son. I had surgeries, and just right before I was to have my hysterectomy, my brother-in-law Fritz passed away. And I woke up. I was under the anesthesia, and just right before I came out of it, I saw Fritz, and he was sitting there like this, and he smiled at me, and I woke up, and I was screaming in pain. But I know I saw him. And then several years later, I had my knee surgery, and 2 days before my knee surgery, a best friend that's like a big brother to me passed away from COVID. And I went and had my knee surgery with him and on my mind. And I had an experience of just, again, right before I came out of the anesthesia, I felt this big room, like it was all white, and it felt like there was a big room, and I felt like there was tables and more people, but I was aware of the table I was sitting at, and on one side was my best friend, Albert, that had just passed away, his dad, my brother-in-law, Fritz, another man that was my best friend's dad, and there was 2 young kids on the end of the table, and behind them was another man and a woman, and the man was in overalls, and we were sitting there talking. I couldn't hear it, but I felt it. We were talking and laughing, like Fritz just loved to make you laugh. And it was like that quick. I saw them, and I felt that the man standing there, it was like they'd been walking by and stopped to say hi. And I think it was our brother-in-law Brad's dad that always wore bib overalls. That's how we knew him. You remember him, David. I feel like it was like I had a chance to visit with them. I don't know what we said, but I saw it, and then I was awake. I know that they're aware of us, that Joseph's aware of us, that someday we'll be able to see our friends and family and spend time with them. It was a experience that I will never forget, but it was like a special moment to get to see them again.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Karoline, and thank you for joining us today and letting us listen to your story. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on Emma's Pearls, and we will see you next time.